evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Arun Dhir. I am a gastrointestinal surgeon, and I see myself as an instrument of service, as a health advocate who is bringing science in for a very simple, practical sort of method how it can be applied into our lives. And my purpose of bringing these webinars to you is really to assist in creating a shift in behavior, a behavior that allows lasting health and wellness. So, with that background, I want to also welcome my co host, Coach Monique, who's here with me today. And many of you may already know of her work. And for those of you who don't, Monique will introduce herself later on in terms of the work that she does. But really, her work is around mindset shift. And I think if I can summarize in one sentence. So, I guess today's topic is particularly important and exciting for anybody who's on this so-called weight loss journey, because what we want to do is we don't want to lose the good stuff, as they say. And the good stuff is essentially the muscle. Muscle is what is metabolically more active. And if we want to keep lasting health and balance and fitness, this is one organ that we need to focus on. And today we are going to be inviting a special expert that we have on the call with us today, who's going to be sharing some more information and some practical strategies on how we can maintain muscle while we are losing weight. And I think this is really important that we hear it from the experts. And before I progress further, I want to ask a question to the audience. How many people in this audience actually struggle with this question around how to maintain muscle? How many are just focused on taking gym classes alone? Can I just have a show of hands just so I know that what are the current pain points that our audience or the current audience is facing? Are they focusing only on protein shakes and collagen powders? Or do you believe that just going to the gym, and unless and until you sign up to the gym, you will not be able to maintain muscle? Anybody, can I have a show of hands? Just so I know that this is a genuine issue and a genuine matter of concern, please. Okay, no problems. I'll take it that it is indeed a genuine matter of concern. Just the fact that you guys are here tells me that yes, this is indeed something that you want to work on. The challenge really is that most weight loss journeys are focusing on a number on a scale. But we know that simply a number on a scale is not a good enough measure for us to know that we are actually losing fat and also maintaining muscle. Because this is where I think if we are just focused on losing fat, we could actually shift that needle on the scale just by dehydrating ourselves. It is well known 60% of our body is water. So if we dehydrate ourselves or if we don't drink enough water, well, we will lose weight, but that'll be temporary. So I think we want to lose weight in a healthy way that is not only healthy for us, but is also sustainable. So with that background, I want to just highlight who is this webinar for. So anybody who's on a healthy weight loss journey, you want to lose weight, but in a healthy manner. Anybody who may have had weight loss surgery or who may be actually on medications such as GLP-1s, Mounjaros, Wegovys, and all of that, because we know that those particular medications are specifically associated with more weight loss, specifically muscle loss. And anybody who's wanting to maintain their fitness levels, aiming for long-term weight management. So with that background, I'm going to hand over to Monique, who will introduce our special guest today, who's Stacie. And with that, we will then bring on Stacie. Over to you, Monique.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Stacie. She is an accredited exercise physiologist and she works out of Kieser in Collingwood. She's got a passion for making strength training accessible and achievable for everyone. So if you are on this call, she is the right person for you, regardless of age, ability, or experience. She has a strong academic background and a practical client-centered approach. Her particular interest is using exercise as a tool to support people living with chronic health conditions. So she's a committed practitioner in helping clients build physical resilience, improve daily function, and gain confidence through safe, evidence-based movement. So welcome on board, Stacie. It's lovely to have you here.
Wow, what a fantastic introduction. Thank you very much, Monique and Arun.
Beautiful. Stacie,
Wonderful.
I believe I'm going to let you share your slides if you have any slides to share. And I will mute myself now.
Beautiful. Thanks for letting me know. Well, hello everyone, and thanks for having me. As we mentioned before, my name is Stacie, and I'm an accredited exercise physiologist at Collingwood. Today, I'm going to be speaking about the role of strength training, metabolism, and how we find the motivation to move, especially when the goal is weight loss or a chronic condition. There's a lot of information out there about exercise and health, and not all of it is helpful. So it's fantastic to see here wanting to learn from evidence-based practice, and that's a really big step. So I want to acknowledge that. First of all, move back to here. First of all, what is an exercise physiologist? We are university qualified allied health professionals who specialize in using exercise and lifestyle changes to help people manage, treat, and even prevent chronic conditions, injuries, and disabilities. We mainly work with people who have conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis, arthritis, you name it. There's a large plethora of conditions that we cover. We don't just hand out a generic gym plan. Our approach is tailored, science-based, and focused on safety and outcomes. What we'll be covering today, we've got a few things. So over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to work you through how your body composition changes over your lifespan, why strength training is a powerful tool for health and fat loss, how metabolism actually works, what the science says about exercise for weight loss, and how can we build sustainable habits despite the common barriers. So if you can see this screen that I've got up on here, let's start to have a look at how our body changes as we age. As you can see, if you've had a little bit of a digest of this graph now, you'll notice that after our mid-20s, we tend to become less active. You can kind of see here we have, over time, we have a bit of an increase in fat mass and a decrease in lean mass, our muscle mass. Like I mentioned before, most people become less active once they hit their mid-20s. This usually leads to an increase in fat mass showed by this red line here and a decline in lean muscle mass, as I mentioned before, in the purple. A big reason for this is our natural process called sarcopenia, which begins in about our 30s. Sarcopenia is the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. So it's something that naturally occurs, and it just basically means after we hit our 30s, this is something we really need to be focusing on. On top of that, physical activity drops off dramatically for most people within that age group. In 2022, the Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that only 22% of adults aged 18 to 64 and 33% of those aged over 65 met the national guidelines for exercise. And we'll be touching on those a little bit later. So these changes in body composition aren't just age, they're also lifestyle related. Fantastic. Let's have a bit of a chat about metabolism. As you can see here, I've got this grey graph on the right-hand side. There is a large component of things that make up total daily energy expenditure. Okay, so total daily energy expenditure is how many calories your body burns within a day, and it's made up of a few parts. As you can see here, we've got your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, or how much your energy your body uses just to stay alive. Then we have your NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is like typing at your computer at work or just standing, those kind of activities. Then we have our TEF, which is the thermic effect of food. So obviously once you've eaten a meal, the energy that it takes for your body to break down that meal. And then what we can see at the top is our EAT, which is our exercise activity thermogenesis. So This is the prescribed exercise that you're doing. So you can see that a large portion of your TDEE is just living and functioning. So it's pretty fascinating. What we do know though is strength training actually helps increase your total daily energy expenditure by increasing your basal metabolic rate. That's because muscle tissues burn more calories at rest than fat tissue. So if I'm sitting next to someone with lower muscle mass than myself, generally speaking, I'll be burning more calories at rest just for having a muscle that is demanding more energy from my body. So why is strength training so valuable when it comes to weight loss and healthy aging? First of all, like I said before, muscle burns more energy than fat, even when you're resting. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn doing everyday things. Second of all, when we're in a calorie deficit to lose weight, we naturally lose both fat and muscle. Strength training helps preserve your muscle mass, which keeps your metabolism from slowing down too much. Thirdly, resistance training improves insulin sensitivity, which means your body is better at managing blood sugar levels, which is great for long-term health, like diseases like diabetes. And fourth, high muscle mass is linked to lower fat mass, which reduces your risk of heart disease and other chronic conditions. Now, you're probably thinking, how do we assess this muscle mass and body fat percentage? Because I'm chatting about it a fair bit. At Kieser, we use these scales called Tanita scales. They look a little bit like your normal scales at home, except they have a look at a few different things. So generally, when my clients come in, I'm not interested in how much they weigh, although that is an important factor. I'm really interested in that muscle mass. How much are they sitting at? And how much body fat percentage are they sitting at? For our muscle mass, as you can see, these are a few examples of some clients that we have at Kieser de-identified. You can see in muscle mass, we have how much their muscle weighs in kilos. And then you can see in the body fat, it is the percentage. Now, how we compare this is with Tanita, they have a healthy range chart, which we can compare your values to the normative values to see if we're sitting within the area where we'd like to be. We generally convert the muscle mass into a percentage. Fantastic. One important thing to note with these Tanita scales that it's really important to compare your measures to yourself. As everybody's height, weight, age, lifestyle factors are completely different. So yes, we will compare you to a normative range, but at the end of the day, we want to be comparing you to you. And we take these every 3 months generally to see how you're tracking. It's not something that we like to look at week by week. Very good. Next, we have what type of exercise is best? Because this is a question that we get a lot. What exercise should I be doing? Like I mentioned before, these are the Australian Physical Activity Guidelines. First of all, doing anything is better than nothing. Being active most preferably every day with the amount of exercise that's displayed on the screen at the moment. Usually it's about 300 minutes a week in terms of aerobic exercise. That can be quite startling for some people. And what I'm not here to do is to sit here and say, for you in particular, 300 minutes would be good for you to start with. That's why it'd be good for everyone who wants to begin weight loss, if possible, to see an exercise physiologist. Because the whole idea of seeing an EP is us fitting exercise into your schedule rather than the other way around. Because you might have a really busy work schedule, be a carer for someone, etc., etc. So it's really important to see someone to make this fit within your own time frame. As obviously, as the name suggests, they're guidelines. So they're ideal, but they might not be for everyone. Move into the next realm. So the main thing that I wanted to touch on was progressive resistance training. So to delve a little bit more into resistance training, the best form is progressive resistance training. This basically means we're gradually increasing the resistance against which the muscle works. For example, you and I might be completing bicep curls together with weights. say you're doing 4 kilos with myself this session, but next week it's become easier. So we're increasing to 5 kilos this week and so on for future weeks. This progressive overload is super important to achieving increased muscle mass and strength. Learning how, when to complete progressive overload comes with time and education from seeing people like myself. But generally, this is the best outcome or best form of exercise to be doing for weight loss in conjunction with aerobic exercise as well. Common barriers I hear from clients are displayed on the screen. So I don't have time, I'm not confident, I don't know what to do. And all of these are extremely valid. But the good news is exercise doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be all of nothing. That's where seeing a health professional assists. We like to look at the big picture. What do you enjoy? What can you realistically fit in? What types of movement work best for your condition of goals? We adapt as we go. If something's not working, we change it. And the reality is you will come against these barriers at some point within your journey. That's why having a support network for yourself is so important, ranging from clinicians like myself, clinicians like Dr. Arun, clinicians like your GP, and especially your loved ones who you have at home. Now, as Arun mentioned before, I'm going to touch a little bit on diet. One important piece of the puzzle that we can't forget is this. To build and maintain muscle, your body needs adequate fuel, especially protein. A general guideline is around 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight per day. So for someone like myself who weighs around 60 kilos, for me, I need to be ingesting anywhere from 100 to 120 grams of protein a day. But everyone's needs are different. That's why I'd always recommend speaking with a dietitian, especially during a weight loss journey, because getting these numbers are extremely important to support you through your strength training and your exercise, but also your everyday, like your working and such. But ultimately, weight loss comes down to a calorie deficit, which means eating fewer calories than your body needs. But we also want to make sure you're fueling your brain, your muscles, and your overall health. So ultimately, I would suggest seeing a dietitian amongst your journey. Now, just to wrap things up, I wanted to chat a little bit about Kieser, if that's okay. So if you are interested in starting your exercise journey and you're not too sure where to begin, Kieser would be a great place for you. Kieser is a strength training clinic led by exercise physiologists and physiotherapists. We take a science-based approach to movement and we work with people of all ages and abilities. How your Kieser journey begins is you start with a one-on-one consultation with an EP like myself. We get to know you, understand your goals and your medical history, plus your medical team, and build a program using our specialised machines that are designed to isolate and strengthen specific muscle groups. We also run group classes, which are a really great way to start incorporating that aerobic exercise if you feel not too confident about starting that too. They also incorporate other chronic diseases like cardiovascular, diabetes, and falls prevention. They're all supervised by qualified APs. So to wrap up, strength training isn't just for athletes or gym junkies. It's one of the best tools that we have for health, metabolism, and longevity. If you'd like to get started with a tailored evidence-based program, you're welcome to reach out to us at Kieser. You can call or book online. Thank you again for your time today, and thank you to Arun and the team for the opportunity to speak. I'll stay around after the session if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Stacie. That was very helpful. And just for the audience, if you have any questions for Stacie, please put it in the chat box because Stacie's happy to stay around and take some questions. And Stacie, before we get a question from anybody else, there is one question I wanted to ask you, which gets asked quite often, that for a person, say, who's on a weight loss journey and they have not really embarked on a particular path, when do you think doing too much exercise, and this individual may be of a high BMI, but when do you think on the journey they should start a level of intensity of exercise, because there is a risk of injuring yourself if you don't do it under, as you said, under supervision of an expert like yourself. So how can somebody navigate that?
Yeah, great question. So ideally, like you mentioned before, it would be great to be supervised. If that's not the case, how I like to explain intensity levels is on a scale from 0 to 10. 10 out of 10 would be fatigue. So say, for example, you're doing an activity like a leg press, pushing the platform away from yourself. 10 out of 10 would be you can't push that platform away. 0 out of 10 would be you could sit there all day. Ideally, for my clients, when they start strength training, they're not used to it. I like to start at a 7 out of 10. So that's a moderate kind of intensity. Ideally, for muscle growth, we want to be working closer to fatigue. But like you said, if they haven't begun strength training or exercise before, this isn't a safe intensity for them to be sitting at yet. So if you're seeing any resources online that say go to fatigue, I wouldn't just yet until you get confident with the movement.
Yeah, and that's very good advice, because a lot of us just go online, and we are all guilty of doing that and take advice that way, because it's more convenient. And these days, of course, go to Chat GPT and ask the questions. But you're absolutely right. Taking personalized advice is really critical. Uh, any other questions from the audience? Monique, I'll let you field any questions or comments that are there, and I'll wrap up with my few last slides that are here. And I think that has been very informative, I should say. Now, I think one of the things that you touched upon, Stacie, was really around what is the main barrier. Everybody knows exercise is good for you. I mean, nobody needs to actually really attend this webinar, but the real challenge is the barriers. What are my real barriers to going to the gym or following an exercise routine and all of that, which is where I'm going to let Monique now take over, because Monique, I think as we have kind of seen, the real challenges are in our mindset. And I think that's where I'd like you to just step in and share with us what you have to offer.
Absolutely. And funny that we're talking about this today. I had a client last evening who this was exactly it. And we had to sort of drill down and figure out what was the barrier. Quite often people will say, I would like to exercise, I'd like to join the gym, but I struggle to get there. And we drilled down for a little while until we got to the point that she just didn't like to be in a class where she felt obvious. And so we had to come up with a strategy of how could she join the class and not be obvious and not feel as if she was out of place. And it took a little bit of working through those barriers and figuring out what it was, but we got there in the end. And I got an email from her this morning, and she said, I'm really happy to say that I booked a session for tomorrow evening. So once you figure out what those barriers are, and some people will know what they are quite easily, but how do you overcome them? So that's where, and I actually really loved it when Stacie said, comparing your measures to yourself, not comparing to other people. So that becomes a barrier as well, comparing to other people and not just giving yourself the platform to be able to move forward with that exercise.
Yeah, and I think just on that note, I would say that it is so important for us to compare ourselves not to others, but to ourselves, what we were in the previous version and how we are going today.
Yep, absolutely. So, leading on from this, in 2 weeks' time, so on the third Tuesday of the month, I run our Genesis Masterclass, and that is an open invitation for people to come. When you join in, it is a cameras on class. So I pop you into groups, I give you worksheets, we really drill down. So clearly, given that we're looking at what are the barriers to exercise, we're going to be working on that in 2 weeks' time. We're going to work on your barriers. We're going to overcome those barriers and get you into that position where you are really working on that muscle strength. So, as Stacie was saying, making that exercise fit you. I think that was such a great pearl of wisdom, because a lot of people think, I am too busy and I can't fit in exercise. where there is a will, there is a way. And I think, Stacie, you would clearly see that often, that you'd need to work with clients to be able to say, okay, well, we can fit in this here. It doesn't always have to be inside the centre. We can work out some exercise that you can do at home or in the park, etc.
And that was the thing, Stacie, that I just wanted to ask you. Another question that came to mind before we wrap up the evening is that, do people necessarily have to be in the gym to actually do? I know your gyms are, I've been to one of them and they are well equipped in a very scientific way. You can tailor the program, which is really fantastic. But is there any non sort of, the best way how I can put it is, can people still build and maintain muscle by not going to the gym?
Great question. So, yes, you can lose weight from doing non-weights, but to the question that you asked before about maintaining muscle mass, what we need to maintain it is progressive overload. So, for example, if you're doing the same 10 squats, 12 squats, what it be with body weight, or even just with resistance band, there's not enough load on that muscle. So if we don't have that progression, then you're not going to maintain that muscle mass.
Yeah, I
So
get
it's the most optimal is being within a gym-based or strength training session,
yeah.
but it doesn't mean to say that you can't reduce weight without it.
And I think what is also important with the gym is that you have the ability to control. You can increase the resistance, you can reduce the resistance in a very convenient and a safe manner rather than outside, And I've tried both forms. Sometimes you get just bored of going to the gym week upon week. So you need a little bit of a break. So I often say that, I thrive on variety. I thrive on bringing in some variety. So I just do this on and off thing, which keeps me engaged. That's my personal strategy. It may not be everybody's strategy, but I think this is just something to consider.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Monique, are there any further questions or comments before we wrap up the evening? And thanks, Stacie.
I think we must have answered everything. I don't see any new questions coming in. So, I did want to say thank you so much, Stacie. I think you really even affirmed some of our previous sessions where we talked about, having that circle of support, having the right people. And it's often you can't get those answers just from a group chat or something. You need to see those specialists, the dietitian, the exercise physiologist. You're in this case, we've got a surgeon here. There's a team of people that help support you. And that's when you get that best change and that lasting change.
And one thing that I can add to that Stacie highlighted, which is very important, is getting your family and like close family members on board. And I think that is really critical because sometimes we just want to do things just on our own without taking rest of the family into the confidence. So which was a great point.
Thank you so much, both Dr. Arun and Monique. And big shout out to you guys for holding these webinars that provide so much resource and education to people who haven't stepped their foot quite in to a specialist yet, but this is a really good eye opener for them.
Lovely. All right,
Thank
with
you.
that, I'm going to thank everybody on the call. A recording of this will be available shortly, and that'll be, of course, sort of advice. Everybody will be advised about where it is available on the YouTube channel, and also we will put it on our socials as well. So thank you once again, Stacie, and thank you, Monique.
Thank
And
you.
goodbye to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone. Bye-bye.